Hello. Okay, so this fifth podcast in the series that looks at Nazi political methods 1930 to 32 in the era of Chancellor Brüning focuses in on Hitler's first meeting with President Hindenburg, which happened on the 11th of October 1931. Okay, so let's just pick up the key points in the chronology of this. We'll start on the 1st of August 1931, and if you go to chapter 4 of the Noakes and Pridham, you'll see a useful document, document 67. This was a meeting between President Hindenburg and the leader of the German Nationalist Party, Alfred Hugenberg. So Hindenburg meets Hugenberg. It was August 1931. Now remember, at this particular stage, it's now nearly a year since the Nazis had become the second largest party, but pretty much since then, Chancellor Brüning has bypassed the Reichstag. He's not been able to form a coalition, so he's basically taking, rather than go to the Reichstag to approve laws, he is going to President Hindenburg to get laws signed off as presidential decree using Article 48. And that has become pretty much the norm. Now, Hindenburg is obviously very mindful of his responsibility as president, and passing laws using presidential decree is not really in the spirit of the Constitution, because effectively that has put lawmaking down to just two people, the Chancellor and the President. And Hindenburg, doing his duty properly, of course, would like to involve the Reichstag, and of course there is pressure on Hindenburg to talk to Hitler to see whether the Nazis can be brought into a government, so laws can be passed through the Reichstag rather than bypassing the Reichstag. Anyway, in that context, there is a meeting on the 1st of August 1931 between the German Nationalist leader, Hugenberg, meeting with Hindenburg. Now, obviously, the Nationalists, led by Hugenberg, have got similar political viewpoints. They're right-wing, they're nationalist, and as we know, Hugenberg has formed a national opposition with Hitler. He did so in 1929, and he's already now sort of hatching his next plan to sort of like form another national opposition, which would happen in October with the Bad Harzburg rally. Anyway, here's the conversation between Hindenburg and Hugenberg, and in this conversation we learn a lot about President Hindenburg's view of Hitler. He stated very, very clearly that he was afraid that the Nazis were more socialist than nationalist. Okay, so which you can understand that apprehension on behalf of President Hindenburg. One, because of the name of the party, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which we've always emphasised as a key thing. But secondly, of course, the behaviour of the SA and the old fighters, the rank and file, who of course are very, very anti-capitalist in their viewpoints and have taken very seriously the socialist aspects of the party programme. And as we have seen, 1930 to 32, there was a major mutiny within the SA ranks in Berlin, which Hitler did struggle to bring under control, and he did manage to bring it under control, but nevertheless he needed to bring Ernst Röhm back to sort of knock heads together and bring discipline to the ranks of the SA. So you can understand Hindenburg's apprehensions, his misgivings about the Nazis. Secondly, in the same meeting, he also voiced a second concern. It's not just the fact that he's afraid they're more socialist than nationalists, but he very clearly says that he could not approve of their behaviour. So again, there's clear reference to the way in which it's a very, very fine line, although Hitler is professing to follow a legal pathway to power. the SA in particular are frequently overstepping the mark. And bottom line, Hindenburg strongly disapproves of the behaviour of the Nazi Party. He can see through Hitler's facade, he can see through Hitler's behaviour, that in effect the Nazis are little more than gangsters who are masquerading as politicians. So very, very clear evidence in that meeting with Hugenberg about what Hindenburg feels, and he finished by basically saying that they are not a, quote, reliable, unquote, national party. Now, in Hindenburg's mind, Hugenberg is the leader of a reliable national party, the German Nationalist Party. Why are they reliable? Because they're well behaved, and because they are upper middle class, upper class. They're disciplined and they respect law and order. That, in Hindenburg's mind, is the quality of a good nationalist party, unlike the Nazis, who he would see as a rabble. So Hindenburg has got his serious doubts, and he expressed those in his conversation with Hugenberg on the 1st of August 1931. Now, 6 or 7 weeks later, of course, on the 17th of September 1931, that's when Geli Raubal, Hitler's girlfriend, committed suicide, shot herself with Hitler's gun. Hitler hit that low point. He was almost on the verge of suicide himself. And in that context, on the 10th of October 1931, Hitler had his first meeting with President Hindenburg, and it was almost a meeting that was doomed to go badly from the start. Hitler wasn't alone. Hermann Goering accompanied him in that meeting, Hitler was in a low point because of the death of Geli Raubal. President Hindenburg, his default setting was he didn't approve of Hitler the second he walked through the door. They had the conversation, which would have been along the lines of, could Hitler be brought into government? Could he take a position in the cabinet? And of course Hitler was not prepared to take any position unless he is offered the chancellorship on his terms. And so the meeting went badly, and afterwards President Hindenburg very famously made that reference. He said, "This Bohemian corporal wants to become Reich Chancellor? ? Never. At most, he could be my postmaster general. Then he can lick me on the stamps from behind." Tells you a lot there about Hindenburg's lack of understanding of Hitler, as well as his apprehensions. He was correct in calling him a corporal, because of course that was a reference to Hitler's lowly position in the German army, and of course Hindenburg was a war hero at the very top of the German army, so he's making a reference to Hitler's lower status. But he actually called him a Bohemian corporal. Bohemia is part of Czechoslovakia, so he actually got Hitler's nationality wrong, Hitler of course being Austrian. But nevertheless, it was a meeting that went badly wrong for Hitler. The day after, of course, Hitler then attended the Bad Harzburg rally of the right-wing opposition, which went equally badly because Hitler, in a sulk, effectively stepped down off the rostrum because he was embarrassed to be associating with the conservative elites, who he needed to get himself into power. But Hitler, of course, torn between the conservative elites and the rank and file of the party, who dislike the way Hitler is associating with the elites. So that basic division, the issue of legality and the issue of what does the Nazi Party stand for, it was a key factor that was causing Hitler all sorts of problems at this time. Okay, so that's the significance of the 10th of October meeting with President Hindenburg, 10th of October 1931. And the next time Hitler met Hindenburg was on the 13th of August 1932, a meeting which went equally badly. Okay, thank you.